Hey, good morning, guys. So last night slash yesterday afternoon, I saw a Victor mower. Now, Victor in Australia are like, they're better than the kind of general equipment, but there's certainly no Honda or anything.
Turn left.
Google Maps is talking to me. This one's free and it's probably a bit beaten up, but I'm thinking if I can get it to have for spare parts, it'll be really useful. Maybe there's a slight possibility I can put that blade onto the current mower that I picked up yesterday. So I'll update you guys when we get it, and I think that's everything. All right, catch you in a bit. A quick preliminary look around. It's got some fuel in there. It doesn't smell terrible. Not overhead valve on here. So that's that. Oil. And it looks a little bit over full. But everything seems to be right. Let's have a look at where's the carb? Carb's to the side. Let's have a look at the mower blade. Ugh. Actually, let me put it off. The deck looks good. It doesn't look like there's any holes in there. Blade looks good. I could do with a bit of a clean up. And I can get the catcher quite easily. That's a good thing about more common brands like Victor. The parts are easier to get hold of. I can go and get a bagger from the skip for $5. We're going to go try and start them both up. Now this one, the oil is a bit thin. It had a bit of fuel in there, but it's not crazy thin. For a few seconds, just to see how it goes, is fine. Just making sure the crank's not bent, there's no strange noises. Seeing how this dodgy governor spring actually acts, whether it does anything at all. And we'll do the same with that brake. So let's get on with filling it up. That'll be fine. That's the moment you forget that you disconnected the fuel line. Nah, it's good. All right, let's go try it out. It should start because I had started it accidentally when I was at the tip. Now the filter's full of fuel, soaked, so let's put that on there. Because with that being soaked, it's not going to start. Yeah, so I think the needle is leaking for whatever reason. But let's see if we can get it started. So that's run, there's no kill, full throttle, blade's as high as it can go. Oh, it's got a decompression valve, I can feel it. Grass over there. See how the governor works. Even with a dodgy blade, I mean, it still cuts. It certainly doesn't cut cleanly very well at all, but it is cutting, and it doesn't seem to load up in the thicker grass, which means the governor, even though the spring is dodgy, seems to be somewhat effective. It actually seems to be running really well, even with that bent governor spring. You know, sometimes going there and fiddling and moving things can actually cause more problems than it would solve. I'll probably try and at least straighten it, tweak it slightly. Hey guys, so I'm just doing, I'm editing this video, and I've got a quick question about the governor setup on this. So Let me flip you around, I'll draw it, and then I'll ask my question. If you could help me out, I'd appreciate it. So, hopefully that's clear. That governor spring there, in this case, on this Briggs, is acting on its own. The air vane governor is acting solely against that spring to control RPM, okay? Here's my old Villiers, you might have seen me do the rebuild. That spring there, again, it's acting on its own, and the governor is acting against that to control RPM. Now, let me just draw this picture. However, on that mower out there, you've got a set of linkages that are kind of all intertwined with different springs and connectors in this area. And then coming off that, you have another rod or linkage, and you've got a hole in there. Then you've got the carb around here, and you've got the butterfly inside the venturi, and then you've got a cam, and you've got another hole. And between these two, between this governor and the carb, you have a fixed rod. However, as well as that fixed rod, you have a spring that comes along, it winds around that rod for a little while, and then it hooks on the other side. And I was thinking to myself, this fixed rod here, this linkage, or this connecting linkage between the carb's butterfly and the governor, is fixing these two in place. So really, because this spring cannot act on its own, it can't stretch or compress or anything to affect these two together. Is this spring's sole purpose to remove slack out of these 2 points, those two little holes where everything joins? Is that the sole, because this is the linkage, this is the spring that I've got a bit of stretch on, but actually it's not putting any tension on there. So that's my only thought process. Within this area here, where it connects to the governor, the internal governor, there are a number of springs, and I think they must be the ones that control RPM and what the governor acts against. However, this little spring simply takes out the slack between that hole and that hole, so that this center kind of connecting rod linkage doesn't slop back and forth. Am I right in thinking that? Because as I said, those ones you've just seen, you would have, say, an internal governor here, and it would act on a cam, and that would then, that's the crankcase. The little lever would come out, and then off this you'd have a little another linkage, I guess, and then you'd have the spring, and then that would connect to a lever, and then the governor acts against the tension of the spring to affect the lever. Whereas in this case, the spring can't act on its own because it's fixed in place with that rod that it's wrapped around. It's like this. You've got the rod, and then you've got the spring, which is through the same hole, but then it actually goes around the rod like that. So yeah, is this setup not actually any form of governing at all? And in fact, the governing system is actually back here with all the springs in here, and that spring is just taking out slop between those 2 points, so there's no slop for that linkage. Let me know. I guess that's what it can only be that, and it will just stop that butterfly from fluttering, I suppose, and it will just give it that fixed point so everything can move really nice and smoothly. Let me know. If that's the case, then I can put a bit more tension on there, pull that a bit more snug, and there shouldn't be any issue. This spring shouldn't be sensitive like the governor spring setup, that it's being acted upon. But I'll have to check the RPM with the tack. However, there's no excessive smoke coming up. I do want to check the carb and see why there is there's fuel in the crankcase. That needle is leaking, or I presume it to be leaking, so we'll have to figure out what's going on there. And a few people have said that this mower is a few people said, oh, it burns a lot of oil. So we might have just a manufacturing defect with the oil control ring. We can have a little look inside the cylinder and see how much oil is actually passing through, and we can just do our preliminary checks. Was the one we picked up for free. Now, put some fuel in. Again, this is mix, 2-stroke mix. And it's not going to hurt anything for a tank or two. If you're going to run it its whole life like that, yeah, you're going to see more carbon. But most of my repairs are 2-stroke. So that's why we got the 2-stroke mix. Right, let's go out. Oil was just a tiny touch high, but nothing terrible. Nothing like concerning. So you park. Now, if I was just slightly smarter, I would have remembered to check the air filter. If that's blocked, that's going to make it run poorly. But we'll see. Now, this has an automatic, like, ground. It's a bit tight, isn't it? It has an automatic ground, so unless you're on run, it will never start. So let's give it a few pumps. And see if we can keep it going by pumping it. Oil. Oh, I don't want to spray that on you. Let's try again. Might have just been a bit hydrolocked, that's all. It's not doing it now. That's probably what it was. Well, it's going to spit out a lot. Bulb doesn't return fast enough, so it could just be that the main pickup is blocked, partially blocked, and that's why the bulb is returning slowly. Maybe a bit of fresh gas through that. It seems to be picking up just a little bit. A bit of fresh gas might clear it through. That's probably what it is. Block main jet. She's certainly blocked up, and then that doesn't work. But in this case, but it did actually. Mix Mowers with Mix Mowers. He actually did it, and he was able to get it to run. But he also changed the plug too, so we don't know which one that was, or maybe it was 2 separate videos. But anyway, not working in this case. So the other one, we're going to find out why the needle's leaking, what's causing that, and we'll go over and check a few other things. Might be able to get away with the governor, might be able to get away with that spring, the blade, if we can clean it up. Because there's no excessive vibration or anything, we'll balance it and do the valves, check the valves. Can't find valve clearances for that engine. So maybe have a look at some Ryobi manuals, because it's the same engine on some of the Ryobi engines, so we can do that. But this one, we'll do the valves on this too. They seem fine, but I like to check these things. If you can do a service and you're going to sell it, then you know that it's not going to cause you any issues, or at least you eliminate the chances. So there we go. Does it run? Yes. But yeah, certainly going to need a little bit more work on it. But hey, it's a start. It's a start.